Hey boys, this is Dr. Infinity, and welcome to the Trough. Today, I will not be discussing the time I was brought in by the FBI for questioning. Instead, I'm going to be reviewing Aegeon. Aegeon is a sci-fi anthology. It's an indie anthology, and there are currently 5 issues out of it. I have read all 5 issues, and I'm going to be going over my favorite stories from each issue. You can buy these books on Barnes & Noble or Amazon. I looked at it, said they were also available on Book Depository, but it looks like that's closed now. I've never really been to Book Depository, but I guess you have Barnes and Amazon. Each volume is $10. I recommend them. While I didn't love each short story in an anthology, right? There's enough variety where it's like, hey, I really like these, that story. They didn't fire for me, but the rest of them did. So I think $10 is really fair, and I like them. And there's some cool artwork. It's not going to be a super hardline review, but I'm just going to talk about them briefly, and we're going to just hop right in. There's going to be spoilers for them. I will have a link below if you're interested in checking out Aegeon for yourself. I think it's pretty cheap, and it's a nice little indie publication. Fun story: when I was ordering Aegeon off of Amazon, actually, I guess I ended up clicking that I wanted 2 copies of the 5th volume of Aegeon. I did not. I just wanted 1 copy, but 2 came in the mail, and I contacted Amazon about sending it back in, to get a refund, in that process, and they actually just told me to keep it, and they just refunded me the money in my account. So now I actually have 2 copies of the 5th volume of Aegeon. I guess that's cool. And I looked it up. Apparently it would cost Amazon more money just to for me to ship it back to them, and then you're just stuck with this inventory that, you now have to mark as pre-owned or whatever. So I guess that's something. So Brendan Hurd, he's the editor-in-chief of Aegeon. He writes stories. He does some of the art. He kind of seems to do a lot of stuff. And this anthology is actually similar to one I reviewed earlier on this channel called the Bizarchives, but the Bizarchives is more I guess, a bigger branch of more pulpy stuff, while Aegeon is the heavy focus on the science fiction. Issue 1 of Aegeon, yeah, we have a lot of cool stuff. It's pretty diverse in the storytelling elements. We get one kind of early called Atlantica, which is about this underwater world, and it's simple, it's good. I like it. I think it flows really well, and I was really looking forward to this one being turned into a serial where it's issue 2 we have another Atlantica story, and etc. And I thought this one had a nice little villain. He's pretty simple. I'll just say it's just he has a simple but realistic, and it makes sense. His goal makes sense. I think it's pretty smart. It's just yeah, fruit. Works. The Mind's Eye. This is written by Brendan Hurd. He does a decent amount of the stories himself. The Mind's Eye, this is up there of because I've read all 5 volumes. This is one of my top stories overall of the collection. I think it's really, really good. And for a short story, it's just yeah, it does everything I want, where we have something cool, but it's very self-contained. I liked it. Fire God, that's interesting too. We have Ghost Train of the West. That one was good. We have an introduction of Ramek, who is this sort of a Conan-esque character, if you will. And Ramek is kind of a personification of the editor in later anthologies, where after a story, he'll leave a comment, just his thoughts on the story. So that was all right. Automation. Automation features this character, Farrand, who's in this dystopian future, but this is also created by Brendan Hurd, but it's not, we see Farrand later on, but those are titled Farrand stories. This is not. So I guess it was strong enough, or he liked it enough to turn it into a serial. So that was interesting. Overall, I like the first volume. You have a nice array of stories. Don't love all of them, and that's totally fine. I'm not supposed to. I don't think an anthology exists that someone will enjoy every story in an anthology, right? I'd say there's like a few, but this is pretty common where there's like too much, like, I guess I would say jargon or like proper nouns, to build, like you're trying to build a whole sci-fi world in a short story and you really can't do that. So there was that. Second volume, we have a story called Salt. This is like very, very similar to another one called The Cube. I like both of them. I think I might like The Cube more. There's also in Aegeon, like, a lot of stories kind of take on a more like metaphysical quality to them. Like, there's that aspect to them, not all of them, and I'm not like a really big fan of that, but I think it's okay, like here and there, kind of like metaphysical or dreamlike, and that's fine. Not exactly my thing, but if you do enjoy that, and I think you'd have plenty. Archmage is fine. Like, I thought that was pretty decent. So is the Mirror, and we have an introduction of I'm Dreaming. I thought this was all right for some of the, there's a few different serials that pop up in the anthology, and I thought that was okay. I didn't feel like maybe not enough happened. There's like too much happening, but this one was maybe not enough happening. But I end up liking the continuation of that in issue 3. And the Blue Giant, like, there's some cool stuff there, but it's also like a bit too metaphysical of like the dreaming and all that. It's not exactly for me. And Farron's Pie is back in the Polymer Man, and that's cool. I think that's a serial that just works. Like, the world is not overly detailed, not in a bad way. It's just like it's easy to pick up. That's a good thing. It's pulpy. It works. I like that. Issue 3, we have the Lich. I wrote the Lich down. What is the Lich? Oh, yeah, it's that one chick, and they're like in some catacombs and all that, and yeah, that was cool. Max Ryan, this is the start of another serial. It's kind of a big gun guy, they're in space, and he's got a big gun, Space Marine maybe. That's cool. Continuation of I Am Dreaming. I think this is better than the first story. There's enough going on. I don't think this serial continues, though. I wish it did, because I feel like it was starting to like hit a stride. Oh, and we also have some guest appearances of Dave Martell, who's the editor-in-chief of the Bizarchives, and another one, A. Cuthbertson, who's like my favorite writer at the Bizarchives. I really like him a lot, and that was cool seeing them. That was cool seeing some like cross-pollination, because they're, in the same sphere, basically, of like indie anthologies. And it's kind of like a thing, I guess, with, just starting to review indie books. There's a lot of indie books, there's a lot of indie anthologies. So I'm now like in a wormhole where I'm finding a lot, I'm reading a lot, which is good, because I've definitely read some cool, interesting stuff, but it's just a lot. Biomancer, that was a neat story. And the Patriarch serial, I think that's continuing from issue 2. I think there's 3 stories of that overall. And I felt like that might better serve as like a novella or maybe a novel or something, but felt like maybe it was a bit too crammed. Like, a short story is maybe not the best format for that. Cuthbertson, he never lets me down, It's, what is it? His Count Chorlor stuff. I like that a lot in the Bizarchives. It's cool, like dark fantasy shit. Anyway, he's got Screaming Circuits, which I thought was really neat. I thought that was a really cool short story. And then the other one I wanted to talk about here. Oh, no, I have a few more in Volume 3. Let's see. The Zone by Brendan Hurd. This one was cool as well. This one also got a little metaphysical towards the end, but there was enough, like, it's just like it was grounded enough in the beginning where like I could enjoy it. I feel like that's kind of a thing of like more metaphysical stuff where maybe there's not enough to like anchor me in, so then I just drift, and I don't exactly like that. Psychic Assassin, that was neat. Yeah, like, that was neat. That was just a solid little one. I guess, yeah, I could see like more on that world, and that's kind of a thing where like some of the short stories, like, that was really good. I wouldn't mind seeing another one. Or, hey, that was good enough to just, it stays on its own, you know what I mean? Like, it's fine. if we don't go back there, because it was cool enough. Ooh, King's Blood. This was a good serial. This is kind of like Vikings. Or they're not Vikings. They're Saxons. But it's like, I don't know if like the Viking Age is correct. Just to throw that out there. But the Viking Age. And then we get a bit of the Dream God. The Dream God is, I've been thinking about reviewing it at some point. I still have to read it and all that. But it's a book by Brendan Hurd, right? And it's about, I think it's described as if the Roman Empire never ended and it expanded, to our solar system, right? So it's like, it sounds interesting, and I might take a look at it at some point, probably, I don't know, in a month or two. I have some other indie books I need to get through. But I was somewhat confused because I didn't know if this part, and he has other chapters of the Dream God in, volumes 4 and 5, if these were just like excerpts and chapters plucked out of the book for the Dream God, or is this like chapter 1, and then, in volume 4 it's chapter 2, and then volume 5 it's chapter 3. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if, there's the Dream God, and then these chapters we're seeing are like chapters from book 2. I didn't really know. He might have put it in like a editor's note, and I just wasn't paying attention, so it absolutely could be my fault. But I felt it was a little confusing, but that's probably, I'm supposed to read the Dream God book, and then I could come back to these short stories and excerpts here, and they'd make a lot more sense, and I could just feel a little grounded, right? Probably check it out at some point. Like if it's like I, Claudius in space, then holy shit, I'll take it. If it's anywhere near that level, I'll definitely take it. For sure. Volume 4. This is one of my favorite stories in Aegeon. New and Improved by Anthony Bavaria. I thought this guy was really good. I don't think he's written anything else for Aegeon, but I really liked him. I thought he was like really great. It's just, it's like a couple, but they're like millennials, and they just really rely on technology, and it's like kind of a satire thing. It's like, it's cool. It's cool. He's got some bite. I definitely would like to read more from him. And that's another thing which I really like about it. It's like, hey, here's this writer, I think he's fucking great. I'll definitely look him up and see if he has other stuff I can read and, purchase. Honestly, there were a few questions raised in this short story that I'm like, I kind of want to know. He whet my appetite with like, what's the wife texting about on the phone? What's in the package, that the husband receives? All of that, But I understand, like, at the end, you kind of had to go for something fantastical because we're in a sci-fi anthology. But I don't know if you could do a continuation of it or just anything else. I want to read it. Ooh, Rocket Hearts. Rocket Hearts was neat. I like that. Yeah, simple and sweet. I've never like checked out like Rocket Man. I think that's something that's supposed to be like a homage to or whatever. But King's Blood Part 2, this is a nice follow-up to the first one. And yeah, it's a serial, but it's simple enough where like, boom, just follow it. Like we have a simple goal in mind. We're not bogged down by what I would say is too much jargon. I think you can have some, but it has to only be like a few things to not overwhelm the reader. If we, the reader, are juggling, okay, and each ball is like a proper noun or a jargon or something, or like plot and characters, we can like handle like, we start with like 1, 2, 3, easy. Toss me another 4, easy. Here's a new character. Here's another sci-fi thing, no problem. But too much of that, it's like you're just like juggling balls at the reader and just pelting them in the face, and it's just too much, right? It's just too much. But King's Blood, I think it works really well. European Express, this was neat. I wouldn't mind seeing more like in this world or just more by this author. I think he was cool. More from Max Ryan, Space Marine shit. Wings of Helios, this is another solid one. And we have another Ferrant Pie story to close out volume 4. I just wanted to point this out on page 176. Okay. Several vans with robot vendors handed out dinner bubbles, plastic globes of straws to liquefied food. I don't know if this is like something from sci-fi or if Brendan just like made it up for this, but I thought that was really neat. Like that's a really good image, that's a really nice concrete image. I like that. So, issue 5, we open with a small like excerpt from our editor talking about furries, so you know it's going to be a really good issue, like really, really good. Yeah, and I like Crashland. I like, his survival and just like all that. It's nice, it builds slowly and well. Max Ryan, we have another one with, they're doing shit against like the lizard people. And, there's probably going to be volume 4 and that'll be nice to continue that. Darkness, we got our mass shooter, like, lore story. It's just okay. I don't know. That's kind of interesting. Like, what impact will mass shooting have on just, like, our art, because it is something that happens in the United States. Other countries, too, but, like, more in the United States. And it's, like, more of just how our society is going. Add fantastical elements to it. You already have the horror elements, but I don't know. I hope that doesn't become like a genre or anything, but it's probably something there. Three Horns, Arizona. I like that. That was very cool. Future Western sci-fi thing. I liked it. It was very neat. King's Blood Part 3. We're going after the warlock who've been tormenting and torturing their friend. I guess you could do a follow-up with that. Yeah, I guess you could. Okay, so you know the story from Volume 1, Atlantica. And I said, hey, I wouldn't mind seeing more of that. Well, in Volume 5, we have Atlantica, the tuna trade. And I was a little confused by this because I wasn't because there's no mention of like the first story or the events that happened in that. So I wasn't sure if this was a reboot of the world. I wasn't sure if this was a sequel. I wasn't sure if this was a prequel. I didn't know where we stood. So I was a little confused with it because I thought at least there might be like a few sentences or like a small paragraph detailing the events of the first story. But we didn't have that. And while I still like the world, I still think the world is interesting. I feel, and I want to be honest because I don't feel like just buttering up stories and people if I don't like them. If I didn't find some aspect of it interesting, I want to be able to freely talk about stuff I didn't think worked and stuff I didn't really like. That's what I want to do these reviews for, because otherwise I don't think they have a lot of value. This story felt a bit worse than the first one. It just felt like a little more poorly written, I would say. I think it's just a lower quality. And there's one part where pretty early in the story, our main guy, who's like a pirate king and all that, and now he has a harem, which I kind of roll my eyes at a little bit. So he has this one woman who's a part of his harem called Sophie, and he realized that she's like betrayed him, but now they're going to work together to like bring down the people that betrayed her and him. And so, okay, page 104. Abel kissed her roughly and made love to her on the body of her husband's dead assassin. It's a bit much for me, my guy. I think you could have them have sex, but having sex on top of a dead man's corpse is a little much. I think even for like pulpy stuff, that's a little much. But this one, it wasn't for me. It was just a bit weaker, but I wanted to talk about it, and I'd be open to reading more about it, though. I would definitely be open to reading more. Battery was a good one. This is dystopian. Something has gone wrong. We don't know exactly what, and we don't really need to know. But I just wanted to say on page 141, I'm going to read you this excerpt here. He stepped out of the wreckage, having crossed the only spot on the old runway tarmac, which was still traversable. The wreckage had been something he couldn't tell. Not a rain or a bus. Rain? What does rain mean? What the fuck does rain mean? Did you mean train? Then where's the fucking T? Anyways, yeah, editing is like overall like really good. Like overall, it's really, really good. I think it's really good. There's small like maybe here and there. Just fucking with you on that. Battery's a cool story with a guy helping out another man. He ends up losing his hearing, and they're trying to get the satellite to work so they can contact Mars and all that stuff, because like humanity's doing really shitty on Earth. We end with another thing with the Dream God, and it's like I don't know what this is. I don't know if we're dealing with a follow-up to the book or what exactly. Probably should read Dream God at some point, and then I can go back to these short stories. I also want to talk about, there's this short film, because Aegeon has some advertisements, and there's this short film called A Helical on Amazon. So I decided to check that out. It was only $3 to purchase it, like $2 to rent it. So I thought, hey, I'll buy it. And it's a little short 30-minute movie. I thought it was okay. There's a floating talking head, which is something that happens in the Dream God short stories I looked through. And the man's like an explorer. There's some cool visuals, but overall it's like metaphysical, and I didn't really like it very much. But I wanted to say something that despite me owning the movie, Amazon told me I purchased it. I could not take an image from the movie. Like, I was trying to use this little app that I used to, like, you know, crop and take images and stuff. Amazon would not do it. Even when I, like, wasn't streaming it on Amazon, but I, like, downloaded it. But you can only download and access it through, like, an Amazon app. So I can't just download it and there it is on my desktop. That's very gay. And I think, unfortunately, that's going to be more par for the course for, like, quote unquote digital ownership. So, like, even when I had it downloaded, I couldn't take an image of it. I could not take an image of something I owned, and it's fucked. So I don't really own it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like Steam. I'm kind of like more anti-Steam recently, where the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I don't really own these fucking games. You know, I don't really own them. If Steam decided to pull this game off of Steam, what would happen? You know, would I be issued a refund? Would I no longer be able to access it? I don't know. You know, it's kind of a question about that. But we're not going to, I won't, that's probably another video at some point. Anyways, I really like Aegeon. I might say that either volume 3 or 4 was my favorite volume. I think they're cool. You know, it's a nice little anthology. $10, you know, the price is right, man. You know, for a nice little anthology, you get maybe 180 pages, maybe 170. I think that's typical run length for these volumes. And, you know, I'll read volume 6 at some point. You know, I don't know. You know, we have 5 issues of Bizarchives. Now we have 5 issues of Aegeon. Who's going to pull ahead, you know? Who's going to come out with volume 6 first, you know? Neck and neck. Whatever. You know, I'll read both. I like both. I'm going to have some more Welcome to the Trough videos. Probably one next week where I'll talk about a grouping of 2 indie books from some, I don't know if I want to say Twitter authors. You know, I found out about them through Twitter. So maybe Twitter author is a fine thing to call them. But my next video, which I was supposed to come out tomorrow, Sunday, that's probably not happening. I have all the groundwork done, so maybe I can, you know, record it and edit it, and then I'll have it publish it on like Wednesday or Thursday or sometime next week. But this is going to be on The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen by Alan Moore, the comics. I do not like Alan Moore very much, or his works. And I'm also going to be talking about dark realism and this thing Alan Moore does, which I'm going to talk about other popular works as well, but it's like postmodern toxic masculinity. You know, not like toxic like masculinity like Twitter thinks exists, but their version of what men should act like and how that's actually toxic to men and society overall. I just want to say thanks for watching. I'll have more videos soon, and Dr. Infinity out.
Don't leave me here alone! Not without anyone to hate! Ah!